So let's go ahead and dive into some of the steps of what we're going to cover today. So first and foremost, in just a minute here, I'm going to bring up Mark Tepper. He's the SVP of Marketing from Home Finder. We're going to bring him up in just a minute. They've got some awesome stuff that they're doing. And, you know, by the way, if you guys haven't noticed yet, they are doing a really cool agent makeover contest, and they are 1 month away from that ending. So if you haven't heard about that, you got to check that out. It's just awesome. You can win just some really incredible prizes. So we're going to bring him on in just a minute here, and then really the meat of this webinar is all about how to curate content across the web and across mobile devices. We're going to go over the best go-to sites to visit to get great content locally, to get great national content. I'm going to cover apps. There's so many apps that you could use when curating content, but I'm going to share with you a few of my all-time favorite go-to apps for curating content, and then actually how to effectively do it. So once you have all this content, how do you organize it, and how does it work across multiple channels? So lots of good stuff to cover. We've got a quick interview here with Home Finder here. We're going to bring them on for about 5 minutes to talk about what they're doing, which is cool. And then we've got about 25 minutes of the meat of this webinar, and the last 5 or 10 minutes we're going to have time for Q&A. So let's go ahead and dive into some of the meat of the webinar here. And you know, content marketing is literally exploding across the web, across the universe. You know, I have a graphic here, which I thought is so true. Everybody is waking up to the power of great content. The future looks especially bright for those who embrace and integrate emerging strategies. And it's so, so true. You know, if you have a Facebook business page, if you have a Twitter account, you are constantly probably asking yourself, what am I going to post today? What am I going to post today? And if you don't have a strategy, especially around curating content and finding some great content on the internet and throughout the web, you're going to quickly, you know, run out of things to say, to be honest with you. You know, there's only so many times you could post about, you know, what you're doing or asking a question, and one of the best types of content that you can have is you know, video and articles that you find across the internet. But let's face it, you know, getting great information off the internet is sort of like taking a drink from the fire hydrant. I love this image. This is actually an image that I put in my recent post. I just did an article about curating content that I'm going to go ahead and drop in the chat here really quick, and I would love for you to open up, read it later after the webinar. But the article really kind of goes hand in hand with what I'm talking about today as far as content curation. And there's really 3 steps to being a good content curator. Number 1, discovery. Where are you going to find the content? Where is it coming from? The second is organization. So you're getting all this great content. Where are you going to organize it? Because obviously if you find 5 or 10 or 20 fantastic articles, you don't want to share them all at the same time, right? So how are you going to get them organized? When are you going to post them out? And then the third thing is distribution, and where are they going to go? So I'm going to share with you a few of my favorite ways to curate content. I curate content all the time for Inman. Obviously we're a media company, so we already create a number of you know, pieces of content day in and day out, but in addition to that, I'm constantly curating content. And one of my favorite sources is Google Alerts. And I know a lot of you use Google Alerts. If you don't, I highly recommend it for curating content. And an easy thing to do as an agent is to set up an alert for each neighborhood or community you work in. So if you live here in San Francisco, you know, set up a query for San Francisco, Oakland, Alameda, all the local communities that you work. And then you can easily get an alert right to your email once a day. And I do this for the content that I'm curating. To me, it's simple. I get an email. I get 2 or 3 or 4 emails every day with fresh content that I quickly look at. And honestly, sometimes it's not great content. I'll look at it really quick and go, you know what, that's not appropriate for our audience. But if it is, it comes right to my inbox, and I can easily share it. Local schools is a great thing to set up a Google Alert for as well. Your name, you know, in addition to curating content, you should have a Google Alert for your name and your brand, so you're always monitoring your brand. But anything that's related to what you do in your brand would be a great thing to set up a Google Alert for. I'm going to share with you a few sites that I also really like in terms of curating content. So I've got 3 great sites I want to share with you. The first one is Scoop It. So scoop.it. That's the website, scoop.it. And this is a really cool site. This used to be in beta. It's now out of beta. And there's a free version and a paid version, but the free version allows you to share content that you curate to 5 different channels. So the free version is fantastic, and it really it puts all different kinds of content in a really beautiful, easy to read sort of magazine format. It's really easy to curate content. You can feed it to Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and Google Plus and Tumblr, and all the different places that you're at. So this is a super easy one to use. I love it for curating content. The second one is Curation Soft. So this is something I just discovered recently, and Curation Soft is actually a downloadable app that you download onto your computer. And there's all different kinds of stuff like this out on the internet, but what I really found personally is that this particular site, and it's just curationsoft.com, actually found content that I did not find anywhere else. So, I have Google Alerts set up. I have, a lot of different sites that I go to for content. But what was interesting for me is when I used Curation Soft, that it found content that I had never seen anywhere else. So personally, I've had some great experiences with this. It's an easy download. Again, there's a free product. There's also a paid version. I've just been using the free product and been really happy with it. So really cool tool to curate content. The other one I want to mention is a product called Curata, C-U-R-A-T-A, and it's just curata.com. And this is a great product. It's a little bit, it's pretty advanced. So to be honest, for an agent, it might be more than just what an agent needs. But if you're a broker, if you're running a team, if you're a franchise owner, this is a great product to check out. So, I love what they've got there on the homepage. It's all about feeding the content beast. And that's what it's all about. It's like the social media can kind of be a beast. It's always hungry. It always needs to get fed. And this is a really great product for on a larger level. If you have multiple Facebook pages and multiple Twitter accounts and multiple, Google Plus accounts, this is a fantastic site to check out. I want to dive into some fantastic apps that I use. There's so many great apps out there for curating content. So this first app, Pulse News, this is a really fun app. So this is an app that's available on the iPad, on the iPhone. I got to double check if there's Android version. I think there's an Android version, but there's all kinds of very cool. Of course, a little iPhone. I'm a little biased, of course, but that's just me. So Pulse is fantastic, and as you can see, it's a beautiful interface. You can plug in different sources. You can grab content from USA Today, from Time, The Daily Beast, NBC, and it's just a really beautiful format that you can easily share out onto your social networks, onto Facebook, onto Twitter. And with a lot of these apps, a lot of times what I'll do is just in between what I'm doing throughout the day, whether it's I'm in line, at the doctor's office, or I'm at the grocery store or whatever, I might just take a quick breeze through some of these content curation apps just to get some great ideas for what to post out to my social network. So Pulse is fantastic. The other app that I absolutely love is Houzz, and I know a lot of you guys are Houzz fans. Houzz.com, there's a website for Houzz as well, but where I think Houzz just has a fantastic presence is on their app, and there's a beautiful tablet app, iPad app, there's also a beautiful iPhone app, smartphone app, and you can just see how beautiful the interface is. And what Houzz is just basically what it sounds like. It's all about beautiful houses. It's all about beautiful things, to decorate, to improve your home. And so if you're looking for, just some beautiful photography and beautiful ideas to inspire the people who are coming to your Facebook page, who are coming to your Twitter, there's some really fantastic, beautiful ideas. And one of the things I love about Houzz are the photos, because let's face it, what is one of the biggest things that people love to like and comment and share on Facebook? Photos. So Houzz is a fantastic app for that. Now, I can't be talking about social media content curation if I didn't talk about Zeit. Zeit is probably one of my favorite apps for curating content. And if you haven't downloaded Zeit yet, I can't recommend it enough. Okay, it's just a fantastic app. And why is Zeit so different? Well, there's a lot of news apps, like I mentioned, Pulse, which is a fantastic news app. But with Zeit, the difference with Zeit is you can actually set up custom searches in Zeit. So instead of searching the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, if you want to search housing, or you want to search real estate, or you want to search New York or Chicago, you can set up tabs within Zeit just for that search term. So in my Zeit, I have a San Francisco tab pulled up because we have Real Estate Connect San Francisco coming up in a couple weeks, and part of my job is to put out some exciting content about what's happening in San Francisco. So I can have a tab just about San Francisco that pulls information all across from different sites, different blogs about San Francisco. The other thing that's unique about Zeit is it gets smarter the more you use it. So with Zeit, if you read an article and you're like, you know what, that sucks, that's a bad article, you give it a thumbs down. and there's an algorithm that will basically help the app get better as you use it. If you really like an article, you click the thumbs up, and you'll start to see more articles like that from similar authors, similar topics. So super easy to use. I love it. Easy to share. Now, one of the things that's really important is how do you organize content? You know, if you're as a curator of content, one of the things that you'll realize, and I'm sure all of you who curate content, which I know probably most of you who are listening, curate content to some degree or another. You know, there's sort of the question of, okay, I've got all these links, I've got all these articles, you know, how do I organize it? So there's two ways that I recommend organizing it, and that's through two different apps. So the first one I'm going to mention is Evernote. I love Evernote, and I know a lot of you are familiar with Evernote. It's a fantastic app for a million different reasons. I could do, you know, 10 different webinars all on how to just use Evernote. But with Evernote, what I do is I email my articles that I find. So if I find an interesting article on Pulse or Zeit or any of the other networks that I curate content on, I will email it to my Evernote, and I have a whole notebook just in Evernote just for articles that I've curated. And that's super easy to do. So if you're on Evernote, you can easily, if you go into your settings, you can find exactly what your email address is. Everybody who has Evernote has an email address, and you literally can email yourself the article, the link, and it just aggregates it all into one nice notebook. So when you're ready to schedule your content out or to post your content out on your social networks, you can easily go to your Evernote notebook, and it's all right there. The other app that I use a lot is Instapaper. I love Instapaper. So with Instapaper, it's kind of similar in the fact that you can actually send content directly to Instapaper. A lot of these apps that I mentioned, when you click the share button, for example on Zeit, if you were to click the share button on Zeit, one of the options is to send it to Instapaper. So I'll send it to Instapaper, and the advantage to Instapaper is you can read it later. So let's say you're about to, you know, like for myself, I fly a lot, and unfortunately a lot of the airlines I fly do not have the internet. So a lot of times what I'll do is I will, before I board, share 10 or 15 or 20 articles to my Instapaper. And what happens is the complete article gets downloaded into Instapaper, and then I can read it when I'm offline. So if there's any time when you're offline, you can easily send those articles to Instapaper to read later. And it's just that for me, it's been a really easy way to curate content and to really look, you know, at a number of different articles all at once and decide if they're great articles for content. So organizing it is key. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is publishing across multiple channels. This is something I get asked all the time. You know, Katie, I've got a great article, or I find a great video. You know, do I just post it to Facebook? How do I post it to Twitter? What about Pinterest, Google+, yada, yada, yada. So here's the deal. Okay, I am a big fan of not just posting something to one channel and then that's it, and then it dies. Okay, so you'll see, especially on Inman, a lot of times, for example, if we have a great article, we'll post it to Facebook, we'll tweet it, we might post it to Pinterest, but you'll notice that the languaging is different each time because each channel has its own language, right? So how you communicate on Facebook is different than how you communicate on Twitter, is different than how you communicate on Pinterest and Google+, et cetera, et cetera. So now, does every piece of content go on every single channel? No, not always, but I'm going to show you how we do it in just a second here. But one of the things that is important when you're looking for content, especially as an agent, is look for content that can apply to multiple channels. So, you know, look for content that's relevant, that's fun, that's interesting. You know, a lot of times when I see real estate agents and they're posting content, you know, some of that content, of course, can be about market stats and things that are happening in the market, which is important and relevant, but don't forget the fun stuff. You know, don't forget some of the, you know, maybe a fun, crazy house that you saw, you know, on a listing tour, or you know, a crazy video that you saw that was just really fun and entertaining that has to do about your local community. So don't be afraid to kind of go think a little bit outside your box for curating content on your social media channels. Make it fun and interesting. The last point on here is be consistent. You know, anytime you're going to do anything on social media, you've got to be consistent. So I know when I'm curating content, one of my goals is to make sure that there's always content being posted to Facebook. You know, at least for us, it's once a day. Now, you know, there's no really magic number for, you know, real estate agents. People always say, how many times a day should I post? How many times a day should I post? There's really no magic number, but be consistent. you know, a few times a week as a minimum. If I were to go on your Facebook page and you haven't posted anything in a month or two, it almost looks like you've gone out of business because there's nothing posted. And there's nothing worse than the Facebook graveyard. You know, Chris Smith and I talk about this all the time. The Facebook graveyard are those Facebook pages that were set up. Someone got really excited, they set up a Facebook page, and then they didn't know what to post, so there's nothing on there for months and months and months. So how do you solve that? And that's through curating content. So I want to share with you how we do it across our multiple channels. And I'm going to start off here with a couple screenshots. So how do we take our content that we curate and post it out across multiple channels? So I'm going to start here with Pinterest, because Pinterest is actually one of the best tools that you can use for curating content. And we use Pinterest quite a bit. One of the great things about Pinterest is, number one, it's the fastest growing website, period, ever. Not just social network. It's the fastest growing website, period. It has over 10 million users. It's huge. Not only that, right now it's the second highest source of referring traffic behind Facebook. So big stuff. Well, I have up here a screenshot of our fashion board, okay? Now, I mentioned earlier, obviously we've got Real Estate Connect coming up, our big conference in San Francisco in a couple weeks. So, you know, I talked about earlier content, fun content. Now, what's our conference about? It's not about fashion, right? It's about technology and real estate. But it's a conference. It's fun, right? So we've got a board here about fun, about fashion. I get asked all the time, what the heck should I wear to Connect? So we curated a fun board. I'll tell you, this board gets more traffic than any of our other boards. Now, there's a couple things I want to point out about this board. I highlighted right here, I have a number of our ambassadors that are contributors to this board. So there's people who, not just me, but can contribute to this board. So as an agent, and you're looking at this, think about a board on Pinterest you could possibly create. Maybe it's about your local community. Maybe it's about your local area. Who are you connected on Pinterest that can also contribute to that local board? You know, if you do a board about San Francisco, who else in your network loves San Francisco and could contribute to that board? There's a lot of cool crowdsourcing that can happen when you're doing stuff like that. The other thing I want to point out is, see this picture right here? There's a picture right here of a red dress. All right, so when we looked at this board, we picked that one picture, and I'm going to show you in a second how we use that one picture across a couple networks. So this is, we've got the first piece of the puzzle. This is Pinterest. So I've got that picture right there. Let me show you what we did. So we've got this board, and then we took that picture. Like I said, you know, we don't just create stuff on one platform and then that's it. We look to see how things can be used over multiple platforms. So we took that picture, we posted it to our Connect Facebook page. I tell you, this picture has gotten so many likes and so many shares and so many comments. So 22 people liked it, 2 shares, 2 comments. This is from, you know, a few days ago. What's interesting about this that you guys will notice is I posted the picture. I didn't post the link. So see that? I posted the picture. I didn't post the link. What I mean by that is, you know, photos on Facebook, like I mentioned, are huge. That's what's getting shared. I did post the link inside the text. So just to make sure that's clear. So I posted the photo on the page, and I posted the link inside the status update. I also tagged a number of our ambassadors. Again, those people that are contributors on our Pinterest board, I tagged them on this picture. They all got a notification. A lot of them shared it. A lot of them commented and liked. So it's one little thing to take that content and put it across multiple channels. The other thing we did is we tweeted it out. Confused about what to pack or what to wear to Connect SF, be inspired by what we posted on Facebook. So I'm showing these 3 screens because I want to give an example of taking one piece of content and making it stretch out and last beyond just one platform. So just a real quick example, and I want you to think about in your business how you could do that with the type of content that you create. You know, when you're on Zeit, when you're on Pulse, when you're on, you know, Curation Soft, and you're thinking about some of the content that you can curate for your business, how does that translate over multiple channels? So where to start? Where to start? You know, it can be a little overwhelming. There's so much content out there. Like I said, it's like drinking from a fire hose, right? So if I take a step back, if I'm a real estate agent, I've got a Facebook business page, you know, I'm on Twitter, I've done a little bit of posting, but I'm like, okay, now what am I going to do? I curate some content. Where do I start? First and foremost, brainstorm topics. You know, take out a pad of paper, take out a pen, and brainstorm everything, every kind of topic that you could post to your social networks. First of all, your town, your local area, your local communities, interests, everything that sort of encompasses who you are and who your brand is. Brainstorm a big list. All right, that's first and foremost. Then from there, I would set up 2 to 3 Google alerts. Now, can you set up more than that? Sure. Gosh, I probably have 30, 40, 50 Google alerts myself, but that's just me, and I work for a media company. If I was a real estate agent, I would set up at least 2 to 3 Google alerts of your local community, your local neighborhood. That's the easiest place to start. That way, starting literally today or tomorrow, you'll start to get content right to your inbox. Right to your inbox, you'll get 1 or 2 or 5 or how many articles of your local community that you can instantly start to have content to post out to your social networks. The next thing I would do is I would look at your content differently. Look at your content differently. As you see interesting content, and content is just news. You're on your iPad or you're on your tablet and you are reading content and you see something that someone else shared. Look at content a little differently in the sense that when you read something that's interesting, think to yourself, could that be something I use on my Facebook page? Could that be something that I tweet out? And then obviously you could share it out immediately, or that's when you save it to Evernote or Instapaper or however else that you share it and save it. And of course, lastly here is posting it to your networks as you go. A lot of people will do that. I do that quite often. If I read something and it's timely, I'm not going to schedule it out. If it's timely, I'm going to post it right away. If it's something that's a little bit more evergreen that maybe could go out later in the day or tomorrow, schedule it out. Everybody who knows me knows I'm a huge fan of Hootsuite for Twitter. I love Hootsuite for scheduling tweets out for later in the day, especially if it's content that's appropriate for later. Buffer, I didn't even touch on Buffer, but Buffer is an awesome app for scheduling out your Facebook posts. So, if you're on Facebook at midnight, probably not the best time to post a status update. I mean, although you could. If you want to save that and have it scheduled out the next morning at 6 a.m., Buffer is a really easy app to install on your Facebook personal profile or right on Facebook. Facebook Pages recently installed the ability to schedule Facebook posts, and it works beautifully. We do that, fairly often at Inman for content that's not extremely time sensitive. Really, really easy to do. So the last thing as far as where to start, it can be definitely overwhelming. There's a ton of content out there. You've got that fire hose of information. I'll give you one last tip here, and my last tip is use Pinterest as a way to start. If you're not on Pinterest yet, I would check it out. Pinterest has kind of got the reputation it's just that it's just for girls and it's just quilts or it's just about wedding planning. It is so gone beyond that. Let me just tell you, there is so much stuff happening on Pinterest. In fact, the #1 thing that's searched on Pinterest is the word home. That's the #1 thing. So why am I telling you to think of Pinterest? One of the reasons why we use Pinterest is because it's a beautiful way to take all of these topics that you're thinking about curating and visually look at them. So if you've got this whole big list that you wrote down and you're like, okay, Katie, I work San Francisco, I work Oakland, I work Alameda, I work with first-time home buyers, I like this, I like that, and you've got this list of 50 things you could talk about, think about getting on Pinterest and creating some boards, because these boards will help kind of organize your thoughts, and they'll also be great places to go to for content. And I have up here a great board. This is One Sotheby's. They're out in Miami. Janie Coffey is with One Sotheby's, and she plays a big part in this Pinterest board. And I have a screenshot here because one of the cool things that they've done is they've got boards about Miami, about landscaping, about South Florida boating, about different areas, Coral Gables, closet spaces. What's cool about this board, and this is something anybody who's listening can do, is now that they've got these boards, they can say, you know what, today I want to talk about Fort Lauderdale. Boom, they go to their Fort Lauderdale board, they pick a pin, they pick a photo, and they share it out on Facebook, or they share it out on Twitter. Instantly, if you look at this board as content, there are hundreds of pieces of content right here on their Pinterest board. So it's a really easy way to start when you're thinking about curating content. Again, creating boards with all the different types of content that you could post to your social channels. So, oh my gosh, I covered so much stuff. I know there's more stuff that we could cover, but I want to make sure we've got some time for Q&A.